So Bria Hartley is driving in. Sophie Cunningham, or Kelsey Mitchell comes down. Sophie Cunningham overhelps. And Bria Hartley just kind of plows through her leg by the looks of things. She kind of plows through the knee. And Sophie's holding like her patella.
Sophie Cunningham. Oh, man. I got to tell you. This victory, it came with a big price. Bria Hartley, let me just start there because we've got Sophie Cunningham's sister and mother weighing in on the league, and Bria Hartley right here. This is Hartley right here coming in.
To slide over right there, and Hartley just kind of falls
and she crushes in on the knee of Sophie right here.
She went down hard.
And that was it.
The Indiana Fever came into this season with legitimate championship ambitions. They built what they called a win-now roster stacked with veterans who know how to compete at the highest level. Even Cheryl Swoops, one of Caitlin Clark's harshest critics, went on record predicting the Fever would capture the 2025 WNBA title. Oddsmakers in Vegas had them right behind the Liberty and the Aces as true contenders. But that championship window is slamming shut, not because the Fever weren't talented enough, but because the league has stood by while their core players have been systematically taken out of the equation.
As an Indiana Fever fan, this absolutely sucks. I mean, first we lose CC. We don't know when she's coming back, if she's coming back. And now this happens to Sophie Cunningham. Are we just cursed?
This is the play that just occurred.
That's like she tries to slide over right there, and Hartley just kind of falls and makes collision with that lower leg. You see her immediately grab it.
Caitlin Clark has now missed 12 straight games with a lingering groin injury that somehow keeps flaring up every time she tries to come back. Ari McDonald is sidelined for the year with a fractured bone in her right foot, and Sydney Colson done for the season after tearing her ACL.
It looked bad. She's going to be done for the year. I don't know how much longer the Indiana Fever can continue to survive with these injuries. I just have to be honest. I got to be real. We lost Sydney Colson to a torn ACL. Ari McDonald, broken bone in her foot. Caitlin Clark has played like 12 games all year or something like that. Dewana Bonner scammed us. I mean, it's been a complete shit show, to say the least. It's been a shit show. I just got to be honest.
That's for core players gone from a single team. 4. Most teams might lose one starter to injury over the course of a whole season. If luck isn't on their side, but the Indiana Fever, they're losing players like it's some cruel version of Survivor and the WNBA, just sitting back, pretending this is business as usual.
I mean, immediately in the game, the refs was just on some ish, bro. Just on something, and y'all know what I always say, man. What if Sophie or somebody was your aunt, your niece, your daughter? You know, you got to put yourself in reality, you know, because she is somebody's daughter, she is somebody's sister, and this is just unfortunate. And those of you who don't think a civil rights investigation need to be brought upon this league is tripping. This civil rights investigation.
The league's answer? Sign Odyssey Sims to a hardship contract because the Fever literally don't have enough healthy guards left to fill out a roster. Let that sink in. The most popular team in women's basketball history is being forced to bring in emergency replacements just to put 5 players on the floor. This isn't random bad luck. This feels like the systematic dismantling of the WNBA's golden goose.
Sophie's sister Lindsay and her mom Paula. At WNBA, maybe you should focus less on fining players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game, protect your athletes. Pathetic. Praying for you, Sophie Cunningham. Yeah, officially, my 2 favorite players in this league that I really love to, particularly love to pull for, they're both out now. And it did not look good. No word on that, by the way.
Pathetic, that's the only word for what we're watching. Sophie Cunningham has already been fined 4 times this season for daring to call out officiating incompetence. Now she's stuck on a trainer's table because those same refs refuse to protect her from reckless, dangerous plays. The irony would almost be laughable if it wasn't so infuriating. Even Sophie's mother, Paula Cunningham, publicly called out Hartley before later deleting her comments. When a player's own family feels compelled to accuse opponents of deliberately trying to injure her, maybe the league should start listening instead of just handing out more fines.
Cunningham is down. My goodness.
You can literally hear her screaming in pain. It's so heartbreaking. Indiana Fever star guard Sophie Cunningham, the enforcer, had a lower leg injury today against the Connecticut Suns.
Caitlin Clark has now missed 19 of Indiana's 32 games this season. 19, the very player who single-handedly brought millions of new fans and billions in revenue to the WNBA, has spent more time sidelined than on the floor. And we're supposed to buy that? This is just coincidence? Clark's injury list reads more like a medical journal than a stat sheet. 3 weeks with a left quad strain, 2 weeks with a left groin injury, and now a right groin issue that's kept her out for over a month. These aren't random tweaks from bad luck or poor conditioning. They're the direct result of the relentless physical pounding she's taken from opponents who seem to make targeting her their top defensive strategy. Even former Iowa coach Lisa Bluter made it clear, the scouting report is to stop you, and a lot of it is to be physical. But there's a fine line between tough, competitive play and what Clark and her teammates are being subjected to. When Fever head coach Stephanie White says the physicality is at a different level than it's been for a long time, that's not just coach speak. That's a warning. And right now, the league is ignoring it, allowing a dangerous precedent that could break its biggest star before she ever reaches her prime.
And they got a damn lawsuit. It is Sophie as well. It's Sophie as well. Just the amount of calls, the way she's been treated. Watch it. I mean, just immediately. First, look at this. Instantly into the game. Instantly. Immediately, Sophie got hammered. They had a target to hurt Sophie. She was targeted by this team for a reason. They wanted to hurt Sophie. They made it their business to hurt Sophie.
The most damning evidence of the WNBA's agenda isn't in the injury lists or the game. Footage it's in how the league responds to criticism. When players like Sophie Cunningham call out poor officiating, they're slapped with fines, $500. Then $1,500 and climbing. When coaches like Stephanie White raise concerns about the lack of player protection, they're sanctioned. But when referees swallow their whistles on blatant, flagrant fouls, when stars get hacked, shoved, and mauled without consequences, when the league allows an environment where injuries pile up week after week, silence. Christine Brennan of Asterisk USA. Today, Asterisk summed it up best. After one especially glaring non-call, the WNBA failed to rise to the occasion. Right now, more people are watching than ever before. Record ratings, unprecedented coverage, all eyes on the league. And what are they seeing? Games that look more like demolition derbies than professional basketball. Head of officiating, Monty McCutcheon, insists the league does a really good job of holding referees accountable. But where's the accountability when Clark gets shoved to the floor and it's brushed off as a common foul? Where's the accountability when Cunningham gets wiped out by a fall that looked anything but accidental? The answer is obvious: there isn't any.
I told y'all Bria Hartley is a dirty player. She's no different than Dejanay Carrington. It just doesn't get as much publicity because the Connecticut Sun stink. Point blank, period. She's reckless. She injured Sophie Cunningham, and it is a travesty. Stephanie White, you better go and you need to be buying Kelsey Mitchell food all week. You need to send her a personal masseuse because she saved your job tonight. Your ass should have been fired if y'all would have lost today. Point blank and period. You was horrible. Bro, before you could sneeze, achoo, we was down by 10 plus points in the first quarter.
Here's what the WNBA doesn't want you to see. The Indiana Fever's playoff odds have plummeted from 99.2% to 87.1% as the injury toll keeps mounting. They've slipped from 6th to 7th in the standings, with the Seattle Storm and loss. Angela Sparks lurking just 1 to 1.5 games behind. Coincidence, or exactly the outcome the league has been angling for? Think about it from the WNBA's perspective. Clark and the Fever didn't just bring unprecedented attention, they also exposed just how weak the rest of the product looked by comparison. Casual fans tuning in for Clark weren't seeing balance. They were seeing blowouts, highlight reels, and one team making everyone else look second-rate. The league needed to level the playing field. And what better way than to chip away at the Fever's biggest advantages by letting this injury crisis spiral unchecked. According to ESPN's WNBA Basketball Power Index, Indiana still holds an 87.1% chance to make the playoffs, but that percentage ticks down with every game Clark spends in street clothes. With only 10 games left, the Fever are locked in a race against time to get healthy before this so-called injury epidemic robs them of everything they've fought for this season.
There's only 13 teams in the WNBA. 8 of them go to the playoffs. Not 6, not 4, 8. Over 50% of them go to the playoffs. So when you are supposed to win games that you're supposed to win, you're supposed to just take care of business. I don't care if they lost Caitlin Clark. They still have Kelsey Mitchell. They have Aaliyah Boston, Sophie Cunningham, hope she feels better, Lexi Hall. They have talent on this team. They have enough talent. Howard.
Let's lay out the timeline and see if you can spot the pattern. Early in the season, Clark goes down with a left quad strain that sidelines her for weeks. The Fever struggle, but somehow stay afloat. Mid-season, she comes back, starts dominating, then suddenly suffers a left groin injury. More missed time, but the Fever adapt. In July, Clark returns again, drops a season-high 32 points on the defending champion New York Liberty, and immediately re-injures her groin the very next game against Connecticut. She hasn't touched the court since August. With Clark out, the Fever begin losing to teams they should easily beat. Then disaster strikes Sari McDonald and Sydney. Colson both go down with season-ending injuries in the same game against Phoenix. Now Sophie Cunningham has joined the injury list. That's 4 separate incidents. 4 key players, all on the very team the league was banking on to dominate, boost ratings, and carry the WNBA to unprecedented heights. So, at what point do we stop pretending this is bad luck and start calling it what it looks like? Systematic targeting of the league's most valuable franchise.
And we have no idea when Caitlin Clark is coming back or if she is coming back at all. Every time that they get asked, they just say TBD. We have no idea what's going on, which is, in my opinion, quite suspicious. You kind of know what is going to happen with an injury. The doctors can give you an estimate. The player can tell you, you know what, I'm not really feeling that great. I don't expect to be coming back. But she has been practicing with the team. Maybe she's going to come back for the playoffs and help them get that championship, or at least try to get the championship.
Lindsey Cunningham's social media post wasn't just a frustrated family member lashing out. It was a damning indictment of the WNBA's broken priorities. Instead of hiring competent officials who can call a consistent game and protect athletes, the league is more focused on punishing players for speaking truth to power. Sophie Cunningham has already been fined multiple times. This season for calling out officiating, one of those fines coming from a TikTok where she flat out called referees useless after watching them ignore dangerous play after dangerous play. And here's the kicker. Every time she's fined, fan support only grows stronger. GoFundMe campaigns cover her fines within hours. Petitions demanding referee accountability rack up thousands of signatures overnight. So, what's the WNBA's response to the outrage? More fines, more sanctions, more attempts to silence the truth. When Lindsey Cunningham calls the league's priorities pathetic, she's not talking about one bad call or one ugly game. She's pointing to a systemic failure league that refuses to protect the very athletes driving its historic growth, and instead chooses to punish them for daring to call out the problems everyone can see.
Sophie's mother, Paula, Hartley is a disgruntled player having trouble everywhere she goes. She's playing mean and plays out of control. So, what can you say? I do not blame Sophie's mother and sister for being upset. Marina Mabrey went nuts in this game, scored 27.
Sophie Cunningham's injury isn't just another name added to the injury report. It's proof that the WNBA has lost control of its own product. When Candace Parker talks about experiencing the physicality as a generational talent, she's describing normal, competitive basketball, but what's happening to the Indiana Fever is something else entirely. This isn't about toughness. It's about a league that treats its biggest stars as threats to the status quo instead of assets. To protect, it's about officials who've been given the green light to let certain teams get hacked, shoved, and mauled, while others get every whistle. It's about a front office more obsessed with optics and control than with growth and player safety. But here's where the league miscalculated. The fans aren't buying it anymore. Social media is flooded with hashtags backing Sophie Cunningham and demanding accountability from referees. Clips of dangerous, uncalled plays spread faster than the league can bury the story. Former players and coaches are openly calling out the bias, and every fine or sanction the WNBA hands out only makes the backlash louder. Because here's the brutal irony. When you fine Sophie Cunningham $1,500 for calling out referee incompetence, and then that very incompetence leads directly to her injury, you don't silence her. You validate her point louder than she ever could.
This is a play where Sophie Cunningham is dribbling toward the baseline. As you can see, she catches the ball on the wing, dribbles down, and then JC Sheldon kind of body checks her out of bounds, but the referee didn't call a foul there. He just called it an out of bounds, like Sophie Cunningham ran out of bounds is what he called. So you watch her here, dribbles, pushed out of bounds. Sophie's like, oh, of course, it's going to be a foul. No, it wasn't. That wasn't a foul. This one, she actually quote tweeted herself. As you can see, she's running up and then Hartley kind of elbows her in the neck and Sophie falls to the ground. Now she reposted this and she said, they said I flopped, LOL. So I guess the referees told her that she flopped on that play, or the players, who knows. Somebody told her that she flopped on that play. This is Aaliyah Boston and Tina Charles, and they are battling in the post. And then you can
The Indiana Fever came into this season with legitimate championship ambitions. They built what they called a win-now roster, stacked with veterans who know how to compete at the highest level. Even Cheryl Swoopes one of Caitlin Clark's harshest critics went on record predicting the Fever would capture the 2025 WNBA title. Oddsmakers in Vegas had them right behind the Liberty and the Aces as true contenders, but that championship window is slamming shut not because the Fever weren't talented enough, but because the league has stood by while their core players have been systematically taken out of the equation.